empowering local leadership. I need to be empowered.
You need to be empowered.
Oy, oy.
1, 2.
Ooh, that is not, okay, well,
I wish you not to butt dial me, okay?
me?
Yeah.
Did I?
You may.
Oh, did you? Could you see it back there? All right, I won't.
I passed them around.
We got him out. Let's get done and over with. Come on.
Yeah, but this is Friday, June 14th.
I just did what I was asked to do.
I opened the email, and it was June 13th and 14th were the meetings, so,
Empowering local leadership.
yeah,
You opened the email that this is talking about?
yes,
So we missed it.
we missed it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's already done and gone. Because I see Dave Joyce was there.
No.
I've had the honor of meeting him a couple of times. He's a down-to-earth guy.
Today's the 18th? Yes. Thank you.
It's all working, we're good.
Good. Okay.
Hello, everybody. You do YouTube the meetings. Hi, CJ. So you'll be able to watch it too. But if you sit in the back row, you won't be on TV. If you go anywhere in front of the camera, you can get on. But if you're back there, you're incognito. So there you go. There's Jeff knows, right? There you go. We got a minute to go. Yeah, we started YouTubing all the meetings during COVID, and then of course, it's hard to not keep doing it, because everybody, they like it. Residents or non-residents can go back.
Oh, yeah, they can watch them anytime.
But,
What else would you like, you know?
yeah. Okay.
XCIS.
All right.
Mark Harmon.
That's how we need to advance. That was a quick response.
Fred, you ready?
Tear it down to us.
Diane?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yep, absolutely.
Nikki?
Yes.
John? Brian?
Yes, sir.
Ray? You all set? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Walton Hills regular council meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Next order of business is Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. At this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence for all active duty military personnel, please. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Roll call, Nikki.
Councilman Nielsen?
Here.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Here.
Councilwoman Allen?
Here.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon?
Here. All of council present, along with our fiscal officer, Nicole Sell, and our law director, John Montello. Okay. Any persons having business before council, at this time you can come forward. Use your, just state your name and address. Yeah, that's, yep. If you needed to bring one of the kids out, you could take the mic out and even sit down if that helps you.
We just need to have you on the mic, Mr. Varga.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of residents want to even speak from the last
okay.
row, and I got to treat everybody the same.
Sorry, say again?
I said I got to treat everybody the same. Sometimes people, I can talk loud enough. But
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I've never been to one of these meetings, so I'm not sure how they work. I understand you guys probably have important stuff to do, so I will try to be brief. I wrote a brief. Your name and where you live? Jordan Vargo. I live on 6670 Dunham Road in Walton Hills. I wrote a little thing, drafted a quitclaim deed to put the title to our home in my name only, and thus shelter my wife from the threat of fines or imprisonment. Second, I have spoken with Fred Nielsen and Jennifer Allen, who have both personally been to my property and are familiar with the unusual circumstances of my boundary lines. They have shared their concern about how this has gotten out of hand, invited me here tonight, and have agreed to help me either get on the agenda before council or the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals. Third, I have spoken with all 4 of my neighbors directly in person. To the north, I have CJ Barnes and Holly Coaster. To the south, I have Dan and Bonnie Costin. I have to the east, Iman and Christina Taylor, who couldn't make it tonight. And to the west, I have Meyer and Hala Pidaro, who also couldn't make it tonight, but intended to come. I have confirmed that none of them have any objection to my chickens or the pen or anything related to them. On the contrary, all 4 of them have expressed that they share my concerns about the zoning inspector's overreach and attested to their willingness to petition on my behalf that I should be able to keep both my chickens and my pen as it is currently constructed. Finally, I have drafted a preliminary purchase agreement for my neighbors, Meyer and Hala, to assume ownership of the land along Ryan Road in the event that the zoning board is not satisfied with their mere consent. From talking with Meyer and Hala, it's my understanding that the strip of land is nothing but a nuisance to them, which they never wanted in the first place, and that they would be happy to subdivide the lot and give it to me because it would eliminate a maintenance cost for them and make it easier for them to sell their house in the future. I have even offered to assume all the costs of the survey, title fees, recording fees, etc. As far as the actual villagers are concerned, this seems to me to be a win-win for everyone. I have explained the steps that I have taken, and now I would like to be straightforward with you, Don, and the members of council about exactly what I am asking. First of all, it is my understanding that these ordinances were written almost 10 years ago and were a kind of first draft at allowing chickens in the village. I've also been led to believe by a number of people who were around back then that they may have been written begrudgingly with the deliberate intention of making compliance difficult. I have only lived in Walton Hills for 4 years. That was before my time, and I won't speak to that. I don't know. But it would seem to me at least a plausible theory, given the difficulties I've encountered. So I am asking the council here tonight to please review and revise these ordinances with the goal of making compliance, first of all, possible, and second, simple for me and all the fellow villagers who simply want to have a couple of chickens. My family has been subjected to an enormous amount of hardship over the last few weeks, wrestling with how to address this situation. I have lost well over a week's worth of work trying to write petitions, write letters, talk to neighbors, talk to attorneys, talk to building department officials, talk to police officers, draft purchase agreements, contract surveyors, and most of all, trying to reassure my pregnant wife that I won't let her have our baby in prison. I haven't been able to sleep well, I haven't gotten to spend time with my children, and I haven't done anything but work on this for the last 3 weeks. My Mother's Day gift to my wife was ruined by all of this, and my Father's Day was a miserable affair too. I've talked to a lot of villagers in the last few weeks who grew up here and who can remember what it used to be like, and many of them have shared my concerns and articulated that they are concerned about the direction the village has taken and that these regulations are unduly burdensome. To be more specific, I am asking at the very minimum that the setback requirement be reduced to a practicable standard, such as 5, 10, or even 15 feet, which would still be well over the typical setback requirements for actual buildings, and that the rear yard requirement be dropped. Not every lot is the same shape or size, including mine, which is very unusual, and a one-size-fits-all ordinance is very burdensome. Second of all, I am asking you, the council and mayor, to grant an extension of the compliance period and retract the threat of imprisonment from my family. It has taken me nearly all of 30 days just to try to wrap my head around this issue, talk to my neighbors, make phone calls, create a plan to propose for you here tonight. I've spoken about the situation with a company called McSteen Land Surveyors, and it is my understanding that the subdivision of Meyer's parcel and transfer of ownership to me could take as long as 90 days due to Cuyahoga County's inefficiencies. Therefore, I would ask for a minimum of 120 days compliance time so that I can make the necessary arrangements. Third, I'm asking the mayor and the council to make a unanimous appeal on my behalf to Mike Cummins, who I understand is the head of the Board of Zoning Appeals, although I don't know the man, and ask that I simply be granted a variance so that my chicken pen can remain as it stands and so that I can resume my duties as a husband and a father. I know that you were all very busy and probably enjoying my speech about as little as I enjoy having to make it. I know that you come from different places and perspectives in politics. I have tried to convey that this is not a political issue, but a simple issue of basic reason and goodness. The village states on its own website under the mayor's message that the mission statement of the village is to, quote, preserve the country home atmosphere of the village. At the end of the day, that is all that I am asking you to do. There is no alternative open to me which upholds this goal. I will not be rebuilding a pencil-thin chicken pen straight down the middle of my yard because that is ridiculous. Lastly, I want to say this. I know that some of you may be on my side, and I know that to some of you I might just seem like a stubborn hillbilly who thinks he's above the law. Let me say, it is true that when I first went down to the building department, I told Mr. Fergitz that I would not tear down my chicken pen. I believe my exact words were that I would stand in front of it when they came with the bulldozer, and I would stretch my arms forth to be handcuffed when they came to arrest me. Perhaps that sounds crazy to you. More than a couple people have told me I'm a nut and given me the brutally oversimplified, why don't you just move it routine. I would like to answer that question now. This is the reason why I would consider going to jail over a chicken pen. Because to me, it is not a chicken pen. To me, it is a monument. I told you that we bought our home in the Christmas of 2020. What I didn't tell you is that as a young family and owner of a small business, we went through our own version of hell during the era of COVID-19. It was incredibly difficult on our marriage, on our finances, on my business, and it sucked so much of the joy out of life that we should have had as a young family. We were alone and isolated and battered by ever-changing rules and regulations that made life miserable for years. And 2 months after we moved, during all of that miserable time, I was suffocating, not figuratively, but literally. In February of 2021, I was told that I had early onset chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, despite the fact that I am not a smoker. Probably it was too many years of drywall dust, fiberglass, something from work and my business. I don't know. I don't know if it was my fault or what I did, but all day long, for nearly 3 whole years, I couldn't get a deep breath of air. My lungs were permanently damaged, and I felt like I was being choked slowly and surely into an early grave. I spent my days struggling to make it through work, hide my difficulties from my friends, coming home exhausted and out of breath, and weeping at night, wishing I could run around in the yard and keep up with my little kids, wondering whether I would ever be able to get a deep breath again, and whether I would be able to keep working and providing for my family, and live to see my kids grow old. I was depressed and miserable, and my wife and I were fighting. It was a stressful time for her too. I saw probably 8 or 9 different doctors who just kept throwing medicines at me that didn't help. And it wasn't until late last year that I found a new doctor who actually listened to me and helped me and tried some new things that have given me a lot of my life back. I felt happy and hopeful about my future for the first time in years. My wife and I were doing well, and our marriage was starting to be happy again. In this May, which ironically was Mental Health Awareness Month, I decided to take off some time from work for my own mental health and do something good for my wife. I took 2 weeks off, and I spent thousands of dollars, and I built the most beautiful chicken pen in all of Walton Hills, and a wildflower garden and a lavender garden because my wife likes lavender, and I built a fence, and I planted peach trees. I made that little piece of land into an oasis, a place of peace, or, as the village might call it, a country home atmosphere. It was, to me, a monument of God's faithfulness to me. And to cap it all off, I had a friend make this wood burning for my wife for Mother's Day, which has written on it a verse from the Bible, which says, God says to his people, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never again be put to shame. That is not a verse that you will find on TJ Maxx wood-burning plaques, but it's a verse that's meaningful to me because it signifies that I believe God has given me hope for a bright future, and I wanted to give it to my wife as a gift. And on Thursday night, after I had finished all this, I planned to mount this to the front of my chicken pen. I put all my tools away, and I sat down on the bench in the lavender garden, and I rested from 12 long, hard, sunburned days, and I looked up at the sky, and I thanked God for my life. And the very next morning, the village came and told me to tear it all down. I am not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking for favors. I'm not asking for anything crazy or ridiculous. On the contrary, I would try to persuade you that the laws I'm being asked to comply with are rather ridiculous. And I think if the people in the village even knew about them, they would mostly agree. If the government serves the people and not the other way around, if the mission statement of the village is more than just empty words, then I am asking you to help me. I just want to sit in my yard and play with my kids, live my life, and have a couple of chickens. And if you still aren't persuaded, I would ask you to please consider what possible benefit could be articulated that the destruction of my chicken pen would accomplish for the good of the village. Who is going to be happy about that? Who does it benefit? Which people in the village think that this is a worthwhile use of our tax dollars to pursue me over a chicken pen violation? Irony of ironies, I bumped into Mr. Fergus this morning on my way in here, or to the village hall. I was coming to talk to the chief of police to ask him what this letter meant and what I needed to do. But I bumped into Mr. Fergus instead, and I talked to him for an hour and a half in the parking lot, and we had a heart-to-heart. And from what I can tell, I think that even he agrees with me, although I think he's afraid to say so. That's all I have to say. I would like to pass out a few things, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are a few pictures of my children and the chicken pen. I thought there were only 5 pounds.
No, that's fine. We can share. We can make copies too.
Yeah.
Mr. Bartle, it's not a problem there.
So stinking cute.
I would ask you guys to look at the map. Obviously, I did this on my computer. I'm not a zoning inspector. But the plat map shows, and I'll hold this up so everybody can see, I guess, shows our property here, which is attached by a tiny little piece to the guy behind me who doesn't mind my chickens. And the strip of land that I am too close to, there's nobody on it, and it's just next to a road. And the neighbors on the other side are here tonight in support of me. And the white line drawn down the middle of my property, I got a ruler out and tried to do it to scale, is the approximate portion of my property, which is about 110 feet wide by my reckoning, that I would be allowed to build a chicken pen on. It's a razor-thin pencil line straight down the middle of my property. I would submit that this is on its face an unreasonable demand. And I'm asking for your help. So I think that part of my thing got deleted. So I'm just going to say this, because I think I forgot to print a page. I'm asking for help. I would like a stay of the compliance date. I would like the time necessary to figure this out. I would like the council to go to bat for me before the Board of Zoning Appeals to help me get a very simple variance. And I would like these regulations to be revised, because I think there's a lot of people in the village that want to have chickens. And I don't think it's fair to make it this difficult for them. I read all 4 pages of the ordinances. It's very, very burdensome. It stipulates paint colors, the size of the grid of the wire mesh that you can use in the windows. It's very burdensome, to say the least. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Bartle, stay there for a couple minutes. I have just a few questions, and I'll be very brief. I know the conversation we had was never about this. I just want to make that, you just said to me, nice to see, we had,
No,
short.
it wasn't.
You've never had this conversation
No,
with me.
no.
From what I understand, you never had, besides that short comment, you haven't made an appointment with the building superintendent, Rob Kalman, / zoning inspector. You and him have you've never set up a meeting with him, correct?
I have not. I've spoken with Jeff Fergus.
And then I have another thing. You mentioned something about, threats to your wife in jail was, first of all, I don't think that village has ever put anybody in jail for zoning violations that I'm aware of in my 21 years. But just to clear it up, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page. You mentioned the letters. I have 2 letters that I did have Rob drum up today and pass out. So I just want to make sure these are the letters you're saying your wife was threatened.
May I
Is it the
grab my
May
water?
20th, 24 letter? Because I think this is,
Yes.
okay,
It
and,
was dated May 20th. I received it on maybe June 4th or
right,
5th.
and the 6/14/24 letter, correct?
We went to the post office this morning to pick up an identical copy of the one that was sent and dated May 20th. I'm not sure if that was the one you're talking about.
The reason that's important to me, and because first of all, this body, this administration, nobody wants to, at least under my leadership and this council, put anybody in jail. And I know our attorney, you haven't talked to him yet,
No, I
correct?
haven't.
Or tried to make contact with him, correct?
No, with all due respect, Mayor,
Yes.
I did contact 2 of my elected council people, and I did talk to the zoning inspector, and I promptly went down to the building department where I did speak with Mr. Fergetz and Rob Kalman at the time, and I believe that I have gone above and beyond to try to make contact with the people that I understood to be necessary to talk to.
That's fine. But I just want to make clear, so what you're saying, the threats of putting somebody in jail is this sentence: the fence and chicken coop must be removed within 30 days of receiving this notice. All penalties will be enforced under Walton Hills Codified Ordinance 202.99. Okay? So even in that ordinance, to get to that point, you're way down. The first thing is a $150 fine. The second one is 150 to 500. The point of putting, I just want to make that clear. I certainly would never want the village to perceive that putting someone in jail for this. My suggestion,
If I may make a brief comment, Mayor.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
would tell you that I have read the bottom paragraph of both letters, and it states in clear language that each day upon which compliance is not made shall be constituted as a distinct and separate offense, which means that on day 30, I can be penalized for a misdemeanor class 3. On day 31, another day upon which compliance is not made, I can be penalized with 60 days in prison and or a fine of, I believe, $500. And then on day 3, I could have my wife sent to jail for 180 days. So I don't think it, on my plain reading, and I am not a lawyer, but my plain reading as a villager, as a resident of the village, is that I am not that far down the line, and that within 3 days of the compliance period, I could be, either myself or my wife, be faced with a threat of imprisonment up to 180 days.
That won't happen. But I will tell you this. The reason I make that statement, and I'm not here to debate with you, Mr. Vargo, far from it, okay? This isn't the forum for a debate. This is not the place, and I wouldn't
Okay.
do it. It's just not the place. It's a place for you to give your statements, your right to have your residents here and stuff, because we're all in the same boat together. The reason I said that was because that's a common thing that is in any form letter you put out. What is the penalty? Okay? It's nothing specific to the Vargos. It's a penalty that even goes out. It's in our codified ordinance. Could even be related to grass cutting. It could be related to a lot of things. The reason I'm making that, I don't want you to feel that you're any different than anybody else, and you shouldn't be, okay? Everybody should be treated the same. But we do have these codified ordinances in place. My suggestion, and council can say or do whatever they want, but this is my suggestion. My suggestion is you call it Mr. Kalman, okay? Call it Mr. Montello,
Excuse me, sorry.
and you have a meeting, okay? You could bring a few people, you know, you don't have to bring everybody, but they go over the ordinances with you, okay? They can talk about whether it could become compliant or not. When you ask for us to give a recommendation to the zoning board they act on their own. We have this mayor here does not give them an opinion one way or the other, and they shouldn't take it. They're a separate board. They're actually a legal board. When you go in front of them, you have to raise your right hand, okay? It is a legal hearing, okay? So they act on their own, okay? And I never get involved in either one of them, any of it, just because they need to act according to how the law is, very black and white, because they have to treat everybody exactly the same, okay? And that's their job. And we have a very good board. But my suggestion would be to contact Rob Kelman, Mr. Montello. He can, however you want, you guys can exchange numbers however you want. Mr. Montello can give however you want it. Give it to Mr. Vargo, your business line or your thing. And you sit down and explain, okay? Because if the ordinance is an ordinance, it is, okay? I can't, that's why I don't get involved. I can't, somebody come to me and say, you know, they're violating ordinance so-and-so, they cut down, oh, that's okay if they do that, you know, I know them, okay? And then this person over here, who I don't know, gets a ticket, okay? That's not fair. It's not how it should be. That's not how the law is. We should all be treated exactly the same, including myself, okay? So that is my suggestion. That's about as much as I'm going to comment. I just wanted to comment on the part of, because Rob does report to me, Jeff Fergus reports to me, and the police report to me, okay? Everybody's pretty much a direct line to me. So it hits home to me when somebody says the village threatened to put their wife in jail, okay? So I take that very personal, okay? So that's why I want to make sure I have all the documentation, because if something was done wrong, that's on the administrative side if they report to me to take care of that. If they're doing their job and enforcing the ordinances, that, you know, there's not much I can do about that, okay? You could follow the channels. What I do want to say is, what I see, at least with these letters, is a pretty much a standard letter, and we'll review it. I don't think these are any different than any other ones that I've seen. And, you know, I did talk to, because I didn't really, they probably know more than me about it, okay? And that's why I just wanted to make the point. You said you talked, man, I didn't want people to think, oh, you talked to the mayor, but the mayor did nothing. We exchanged, you know, pleasantries, and that was it, okay?
I would like to just be very clear that I do not, and if I did represent that we spoke about this personally at the Memorial Day event in any fashion.
Oh, I know you.
I didn't, and I don't mean to imply that.
I
This is the first time I've spoken to you about this.
Mr. Varro, I didn't take it that you implied that at all. I just want to be clear to everybody, okay? Because I would have at that time told you, call Mr. Kalman and call John. I think the best thing is just take a deep breath. You're in a great community, and I think we'll figure it out, okay? It doesn't mean that you might not have to move it, or you might think, but we're not here not to work with our residents, or at least be fair with them and say, this is what is expected, this is what's here. I mean, at least that's what I can convey to you from the administrative side. I employ people to do their job and do it according to the law. So me and Mr. Montello will have discussions and make sure that happens, and I have confidence in both parties, but my job is to listen to both sides too, as far as that goes. As far as changing the ordinance, that will be up to this body here, if they want to change the ordinances. This is probably one of the first issues we've had with chicken coops since we've allowed chickens here that I'm aware of. So it's not like one of those things where we've had all these people complain, or we've had problems, and
I would ask you, Mayor, how many people have chickens?
probably more than you think. I'd have to ask them, because you have to pull a permit, I'd have to ask Lisa in the building department. I couldn't tell you offhand, Mr. Vargo, but it's more than one or two, and I'm sure you're aware of that. Doesn't mean that one problem, we shouldn't look into it, and it's up to this body. That's where the answer I can give you. My suggestion would be to make an appointment with Mr. Kalman and Mr. Montello. He'll give you his card, and,
I would like to ask a question, if I may.
yes, of course. You can ask as many as you want.
I have spoken, thank you. Thank you. I have spoken with Mr. Fergus, the zoning inspector, who has told me in no uncertain terms that I don't stand a chance of getting a variance. He discouraged me from talking to anybody. He discouraged me from coming to council. He discouraged me from talking to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and told me, as I understood, although I don't understand because I'm not a lawyer, I was led to believe that there is some kind of discrepancy or difference between ordinary building code as it governs human structures like houses and garages, and the building code that governs chicken structures. And the difference, as I understood what he told me, and I could be wrong and I'm asking for clarification, is that because it is not a part of actual building code and is a codified ordinance, that I don't even have the ability to ask for a variance or an exception. That is what I was led to believe. So when you tell me that I can set up an appointment with Mr. Kalman or Mr. Montello, I will be honest with you that I think, and I could be wrong, I think that there's not really a chance there. So I would like to ask for clarity. Has it a variance as it pertains to chicken structures? Is that even a possibility, or is there some legal distinction that I can get a variance to build a garage but not a chicken pen? I don't.
Well, here, John, let me, the thing is, you are answering yourself. That, I don't know. I'm not the zoning inspector, okay? I'm not the attorney. So that's why, and you need to sit down with them, okay? We know it's clear what you have now is in violation. We all have it in front of us. There's no question of that. You can't have a chicken coop in the front yard, okay? So the ordinance is what it is, okay?
It's not in the front yard.
Okay, but I'm going by what they say. That is exactly what I don't want to get into. I don't want to get in debate with you. I'm going to give you my suggestion as the mayor. My suggestion as the mayor, okay, unless anybody here wants to answer those questions, my suggestion to you would be to make appointment with Mr. Kalman and Mr. John Montello. That would be my suggestion to you. I will tell you this, your wife isn't going to jail. If that appointment doesn't take place for a week, doesn't take place for 2 weeks, or even that, no one's gonna go to jail. I'm not saying none of this is going away, but I don't want you to lose any sleep. I don't want your wife being upset. The goal is you need to talk to them and go through it, okay? Maybe you'll be able to find the right answers. Maybe you'll get an answer you don't like, but this isn't the venue for it, I can tell you. I'm not gonna, it's a council meeting. None of us here, unless somebody claims to be the zoning board or be the zoning inspector, or knows more than them. I will tell you this, they also have at their, right at the grass, they can just make a phone call. We use a person, George Smerigan, who's probably written most of the zoning code for most of the communities in this area, okay? And they have access to him anytime they want to call him. So if you get in that conversation and there's something they can't answer or Mr. Montello can't answer, they will get the answer. So it's just, anybody can comment on what they want, but I have 2 employees that work for me, and their job is to enforce the code. We have as many residents that feel we have too many ordinances. We have the same amount that feels we don't have enough, okay? This body has asked them to actually enforce the ordinances. The chicken ordinance that are in place, I feel at the time, was a lot of time was spent on it, and it wasn't pushed through. It wasn't just done to pacify anybody, but there was months and months of debate, months and months of discussion. We had some literature passed out from one councilman that had to be 200 pages. You and also Mr. Rich. Okay? The council spent a lot of time comparing it to other communities, communities like ours, communities similar. Doesn't mean, and what you said could be very important, sometimes you put something in place and it's not the same as the other communities and they need to tweak something. If that's the case, you're dealing with a great council here who hears their residents, okay? To me, if I was you, I'd start with Mr. Kalman and Mr. Montello, okay? And then go from there. And then you would know if there is something to take to the BZA or there isn't. It's very black and white. What a lot of times happens, people will say, I want to go to the zoning, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they'll have a brief discussion with our zoning inspector, and he's very good at guiding them, saying, you have a good chance, or you can always call Mike Cummings and say you have this. He can kind of give you your opinion. Sometimes what you don't want is to come to the board and they vote it down, because if they vote it down, then you gotta wait, I think it's a year, right, isn't it, John?
Thereabouts, yes.
Yes. So sometimes having conversations, okay, will help work things out. I really think that's where we need to go. Right now, that's my opinion. You have any more questions for me? And then council can, they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want. They're the voting body. I run the administration here, my opinion, and if I know there was no intention of Mr. Kalman or Mr. Fergus to upset you or your family. That nobody wants that. So I apologize for the village if that happened, because that's not anybody's intention. I don't want to be part of that, and I wouldn't be part of that, okay? That's just not how I'm gonna run this village. So if those conversations took place, we would take that offline. I'm not gonna discuss my employees here, okay? I have faith that my employees were professional and were doing their job, okay? If anything varies from that, then we need to discuss it, and then I deal with that, okay? So anytime we serve people with violations, we certainly don't do it with a smile on our face or to make someone upset. That would be far from that. And I think the discussions me and you have had from the Lake Club and other times, you know me better than that. And I know you've never said that, but I know you feel very passionate about it, and I appreciate that. So and I know just knowing Jeff and Rob, wasn't their intention to upset you or your wife. So I apologize for that. So I would just say make that appointment and go from there. Anybody else want to weigh in on anything?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just real quick. This ordinance that you spoke of, I have it here before me, and as the mayor said, it is a generic ordinance of misdemeanors. And yes, it does say, I will read the last sentence. It says, a separate offense shall be deemed committed each day during or on which a violation or noncompliance occurs or continues. But then it says, unless otherwise provided. So that, what that basically does is, see, we deal with all kinds of people. There's all kinds of people. And there's the kind of people that slam the door in the building department's face and have zero cooperation with the village. This gives us teeth to say you're not cooperating, here you go. Here's your next step in this process. You want to go again, or do you want to start cooperating? You are obviously cooperating, right? You're trying to find a resolve, and that's all I believe the mayor is asking too. I'm the council president. I've been here less time than the mayor, but almost 20 years, and I can tell you we don't have what you're asking us to do. We don't have the authority to do. Okay, the Board of Zoning Appeals are the ones. We have many properties in the village that are oddly shaped that you can't do what you want to do on them. So they go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals and try to get, if a permit is required, I'd be willing to bet that, and I could be wrong, and I'm going to research this, but I would be willing to bet that if a permit is required, then a variance could be had on that permit just by the fact that a permit is required in that instance. I could be wrong. But that's a step that needs to be taken. We just don't have the authority whatsoever to change anything on the fly. As the mayor said, if we change something for you, the next person's going to come in and say, oh, wait a minute, you did it for him. Now we just have disarray. The ordinance is there for a reason. It took us, as the mayor said, a very long time. It was over a year to do that ordinance. If you look at the horse ordinance, it's like less than a paragraph, or it's just very small. You can have a horse in the village, and it's very small. And one of the people who were lobbying for chickens in the village at the time did say, he was standing right where you're standing, he did say, well, the horse ordinance is only this small, now you've got 4 pages for chicken ordinances. My response to him was, if we were doing a horse ordinance to allow people to have horses in this village, it too would be 4 pages long. And I'll tell you why. Just as many people who came up here asking for chickens came up here asking us to not have chickens in the village. One of our council members voted no on that ordinance. Plus, yes, I have a binder at home that's approximately this thick of ordinances all around the country. Best practices. You mentioned one of your neighbors was an animal lover. I would suggest what they would think if not you, but somebody else threw a bunch of chickens in their backyard with no protection, proper protection, no water, no food, other than the free range.
Don't worry about them. They're
Oh, that's
fine.
okay. No, we got it.
We understand that. Don't worry about that, Mr. Barr. Don't worry
And had
about
to listen to the chickens getting, destroyed by another animal. So, yes, those ordinances, what's in that ordinance for the chicken coop, the wire, it's for other animals that they can't get at them. And things like that. It's all there for a purpose. Best practices from all over the country. And I'd be willing to bet if I came over and looked at yours, you'd probably, by what you described, probably fit probably all of that stuff. It's only the placement of it. That's the issue. So it's not the quality of your construction or anything like that. It's the placement. And you did, which you recognize, build it without a permit. And that's on you. It's not on us, right? It's on you. So the village, we will work with you as much as we can, but the law is the law right now. And so I would highly recommend just what the mayor said, keep on working, keep the communication open, and keep, contact the BZA, ask them if you can go in front of them to get your issue resolved, because your land is such an odd shape. And none of your neighbors seem to mind at all, and that bodes very, very well in front of the BZA, especially with an odd-shaped lot. Okay?
Okay. I would just like to say, I feel it's been made clear this is not the appropriate venue for what I've attempted to do. I want to be clear that it was not my intention to waste anybody's time.
Oh, no, you're
My
not wasting
understanding
anybody's
was
time.
that
You're
the
not wasting
council-
anybody's time.
Okay. My understanding is that the council writes the ordinances, and that's why I came here.
Mhm.
I'm happy to go to the BZA. The only question that I have, which I think that you kind of answered, is I was led to believe that there was no chance of a variance because this is not building code.
I'm sorry, Mayor, may I speak?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Proper etiquette in here, we have to be recognized to speak. so-
I'm sure I'm
and I-
butchering
I
that.
didn't-
I wish that was like that at home.
We'll find that out. That's the first time I've heard that, and that certainly wasn't our intention for that when we made that. As I said, the permitting process, if a permit is required, there's most likely that venue to get relief in order to have that, for that permit to be issued. But the building inspector, I want you to understand too, and everybody in here and all your neighbors, I know the Rob Kalman and Mr. Fergus, they have a pretty horrible job, okay, when it comes down to it. Nobody likes to see them come on their property and tell them that they have something inappropriate or what have you. But that does serve a very valid purpose for every community, so we don't have people just going off and doing, let's say your neighbor builds a house that's about ready to fall down and builds it with, it's purple paint and all this stuff, and oh my God, I don't want to look at this. Well, that's why we have those codes. And you may feel that Mr. Fergus may have been inappropriate to you, but I've known Mr.
I would
Fergus
like to
for a long
clarify that I
time.
don't think that.
Okay.
I actually had
They
a
have
long
bad-
talk with
yeah,
him this
they have
morning.
They have a job that's not too pleasant at times, but that's their job. So, and I would extend any, just like the mayor, we do have good people here that are very much willing to work with you if you need them to work with you, and they will.
I would like to think so, and
Well, they still have to follow the law, though.
Yeah.
I just can't make that clear enough to you, Mr. Argo. It's the thing we don't have the power to do. We don't have the power to do a lot of things. People will say, well, why doesn't the village just fix this? Well, that happens not to be our property, it happens to be private property. We can't spend public funds on private property, okay? That is a big one that is very hard for our residents to grasp sometimes, even myself, and it bothers me when we have a property that's in the village and isn't being maintained. It would almost be easier for us to go and fix it than to cite that owner in court, follow the court process. We've had some things recently where we spent more in the process trying to enforce the code than if we would have went over there and just paved the driveway ourselves, okay? But we can't do that because the law says we can't take your funds, public funds, and spend them on his property, okay, which makes sense too. Sounds kind of backwards, but that's how the law is sometimes. You spend more litigating it, but we have to follow that path. My point is, we don't have, this body and myself can't just say, you know, enforce it on this person, but not on that person. If we did that, we certainly wouldn't need a zoning inspector. If that zoning inspector is gonna go out somewhere and enforce the code, and I say, hey, don't enforce it on that, then you might as well have the mayor be the one. So I'm just making it clear, my point, I know other people have mentioned something different, I'd make an appointment with the building, street commissioner / zoning inspector. Jeff Burgess reports to Mr. Kalman, okay? Mr. Kalman reports to me. Make that appointment, invite Mr. Montello. If you want to bring someone else with you, that's fine, or whoever, you guys can discuss that and go there. You want to have a councilman be there or whatever. That would be my suggestion again. Anybody else would like to make any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Jennifer.
Mr. Vargo, Jordan, thank you for coming here tonight. I appreciate and completely understand what you're trying to do. And my personal opinion, completely agree with you. It's ridiculous for a side lot that goes to a side street. And you've got neighbors here that obviously care about you and stuff too. And Russ and Annie and Tina and this brown chicken wasn't there. It was only the black and white one when I came to see you, the black one and the white one. Just please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. I'm willing to go to any meeting that you have with the zoning board, our inspectors, and our law solicitor, please.
I
Okay?
appreciate that,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Allen, thank you. That's
Just,
right.
just so, I'm gonna make something very clear here, just by that statement. What I do here isn't personal opinions. Okay? It's what I have to do as the mayor that is required within the law, too. Okay? How I talk to you or talk to you, Mr. Vargo, that's my personal opinion, and I want to be professional, and I want to be cordial, and I want to be nice. But you could be the nicest guy, your family, which I know and I've seen grow up from when you moved in and we met at the lake. That's there, the law is here too. I have to, just so you know, okay? That's the hardest part about this job here, okay? Sometimes we have to vote on things. We have to do things that maybe we feel different about, but what is best for the whole? What does the majority think? I voted on taking away the sewer tax, okay? I hated to do that. I hate paying that. I get mad every time I pay it. But I knew if we didn't pass it, we wouldn't have the money to pay our bills. And I didn't see any suggestions from anybody else on how else to solve it. So I had to vote for it, okay? These laws are here, and when our zoning inspector, our assistant zoning inspector go to enforce them, they're following the law. Okay, if they go outside of the law, then I can have a problem with that. But if they're within the law, they're doing their job. Okay, I just want to make that clear. It's not, they don't wake up in the morning and make an opinion that we're going to do this or do that. Okay, it's just whatever he votes here, they got to vote also what is legally correct, not based on opinions or personality. So I just want to make that clear. It's the hardest part about the job.
I would just like to make clear that I am not asking to be treated differently than
I know
everybody
you're not.
else.
I know you're not.
I am asking to be treated equally to everybody else and have the same hearing that I would hope any villager would want, which is to be able to present to their elected officials that they are oppressed and burdened by rules that are very difficult to comply with, that were created by this council. So I'm not asking for special treatment. I feel that you are trying to paint it that I'm asking for something special.
No.
I'm not.
No.
I'm asking
No,
for
you missed the
hearing.
point. You missed the point. What I didn't want to be portrayed of is that I don't like Mr. Vargo, okay? Or anybody that comes up here and we say, hey, guess what? You know, you're my neighbor. You put that 6-foot fence up and it was only supposed to be 4. You gotta move it or take it down. Well, gosh, Don, you live right next door to me. Me and you've been friends for 20 years. I don't have that option. That's the only point I was making. I wasn't just, it was a general thing, just, that's, because we get that all the time. We get that all the time, so. And Council, when Alan made a statement there, and I just wanted to give you my, something similar to that, but how I see it. My suggestion is, again, call Mr. Kalman and Mr. Montello.
Well, thank you for your time, and I won't waste any more of it.
You didn't waste anybody's time. I just wanted to tell you, I can't give you an answer tonight, that's all. I can never give you an answer. It's gonna be from our body.
Could you just tell me real quick, where is your chicken? In this picture, where would your chicken coop be right now? I'm just curious because I don't see it. Oh, it's right in there.
It is, this is my house,
Uh-huh.
this is our farm. Chicken pen is right along our driveway, which is hard to see. It's right around there.
Okay, and this whole thing is your property?
Yes.
Okay.
The chicken pen is currently mostly on my neighbor's property back here. However, if he were to give me the deed to this strip of land, I would be right at, by inches, probably 50 feet from the property line, which would
Okay.
satisfy that ordinance. The only remaining ordinance that I would be in violation of would be that it is required to be in the rear yard, which again, the ordinance as written
Side.
simply says rear yard, which by a layperson's reading
Right.
seemed to mean not in the front yard, but the backyard. So by a commoner's understanding, I believe I am in compliance with that, and it seems like a semantics battle to me. At any rate, I can't fathom what benefit it would be to my neighbors or the village to tear it down and move it 15 feet further back. It would be a great cost to me, and I can't undertake it. It took 3 years for me to find 2 weeks of time within which to build it. I don't have 2 more weeks of time. My wife is pregnant. I don't have a job. I'm sorry, I do have a job. I run a small business. Nobody pays me when I'm off work. I don't have paid time off. If I take 2 weeks off, I can't.
Okay,
I have made it. It's done. I cannot remake it.
okay.
And that is why I'm coming here, asking for help, because I don't think that there's anything that I can do.
I think you'll find your help at the BZA. Hopefully they can help you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
Mr.
Diane.
Vargo, I'm Diane Canzoni. I know you don't know me, but I'm the newest here on council, and I wish we could just change this for you. When I heard about this issue, I did drive by there. And when you first drive by, you don't even see the chicken coop because you have landscaped it so nicely. I mean, it does look lovely there. And I realize you did go on the neighbor's yard, so I guess that would be one of the first issues would be to take care of that aspect of it. But, yeah, like the mayor said, we can't fix that right now.
Sure.
But definitely, I'm part owner of a farm up in Ashtabula, so I know it's very lenient up there compared to being in the city. But you do have a lovely piece of property there, and the chickens, I did not even see it the first time going by, so I did go and I came down the side street to take a look at that, to see the situation there. So I did want you to know, even though you don't know who I am and you didn't call me or anything, which is fine, because we can't fix it yet. I mean,
Right.
but I'm sure working with Rob and everyone, there should be something amicable for everyone.
I would like to think so. I just want to say again, just so that it's super clear, and I'm conscious of the fact that this whole thing has been me, and I'm sorry for that. As it stands, if, Mr. Mayor, what you say is that the law is the law, then there is no choice open to me. I will either have to leave it and risk going to jail, or tear it down and not build it again. There is nowhere on my property that I can put a chicken pen except for where it is. And Mrs. Canzoni, I appreciate what you said, and that is kind of why I'm trying to figure this out, because my neighbors hate that strip of land. They had their own battle with the building department and their realtor because they bought the property not knowing that they were going to have to spend all the money to mow that every year. So they don't even want it. So that's why I'm saying the two people, me and my neighbor, who actually have a stake in this, are both of like mind, that this is a win-win. He can get rid of this strip of land that he hates having to mow. I could own the land and therefore not be on the property anymore. The only issue is it doesn't make any sense for me to acquire this property from my neighbor without some kind of reassurance from my government that if I do so, they are not going to continue to pester me about the side yard language, or if it's 49 foot and 6 inches from the property line, can I get a variance for that? I don't know. I've not been given any assurance that there's an actual opportunity for me to make amends and become in compliance or get the necessary variance, even though there's an obvious, clear, ready-made solution here, which is that my neighbors are willing to give me the property. I don't think they even want money for it. I think they want to get rid of it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at your property to kind of alleviate some of, hopefully try to alleviate a little bit of your concern. Again, I have no authority to change this right now. I have no authority to speak for the BZA, but I've been to plenty of BZA meetings, and you know, I know what they look at. Your house right here, you know, the law the law also says you can't build something like a garage or something in front of your house, right? It's got to be, things have to be behind. Obviously, is this a big garage or barn?
May I come look at what you're looking at?
This right here. This is your house.
This is our house.
That's what's
The
this?
chicken pen is approximately right here.
Yeah, what's
And that
this?
is our old, it's a dilapidated horse barn.
Okay, so the barn is behind the house as you look at it. It's not in front of the house looking from Ryan Drive. You see what I mean? In my opinion, and I'm only speaking about my opinion, I'm not, again, to be clear, I'm not speaking about what the BZA would decide, but everything you have on your property is behind your house from from Dunham Road, okay? So that can be considered, in my opinion only, your backyard, okay? Everything, which is a very long stretch, so they will probably look at that, okay? If I were on the BZA, that's what I would do, but again, I'm only speaking for me, Brian, that's it.
I'm
So-
sorry, I'm not sure that I followed exactly. Could you just
The law
recapitulate
says
that?
you can't, you're talking about side yards and things like that, okay? So when you look at your parcel, you have this big, long stretch where everything is built from Dunham Road back. Okay, that's how it was built, and this road was cut in much later, okay? The road wasn't cut in first and then the house put there. The house was there first.
The house was built in the 1820s.
So that's an argument that you can make to the BZA, okay, as far as how the physicality of your property is. And that's the type of things that the BZA is there for. We can't write an ordinance that will cover every possibility there is in the village. It's
Clearly,
right?
yeah, right.
And So that's what the BZA is for. I can't comply with this because of this. My property is special because of this.
Right.
And that's what they're there for.
That's exactly what I've been trying to say to anybody who will listen. The line that I've gotten from Mr. Fergus is that a variance cannot be written for chicken ordinances, and that he's basically told me there's nothing I can do.
And that's why my point, Mr. Barlow, is, unless Mr. Spitznagel knows different, that if Mr. Fergus made that statement, I hope he has something to support that, and I feel he probably does. So my suggestion is to talk to Mr. Kalman and the law director and tell you, and talk about that, because it's exactly what you said earlier. You certainly don't want to go to the BZA and go through all this if they're not, can't help you or make a decision on it. That's why I think to have those conversations, okay, talk through it, and Mr. Montello does these. He's the law solicitor for Bedford. This is like nothing to him. I mean, and I don't mean us, but the quantity of these situations they do over there compared to Walton Hills, maybe not chickens, but a lot of violations. So he knows the law well, very well, probably as much as any other law solicitor in this area, okay? He's been a law solicitor in how many other communities that deal with the BZA and zoning things, and we have somebody else to go there, because there's, for Jeff to say that, okay, I would hope that he has a reason to say that. In other words, this is something the zoning board can't rule on. That's why I'm saying that. And if that's the case, you need to be told why. I can't answer that.
I can't.
Unless anybody else here can answer that, say. So I'm saying, go to them, find out why Jeff said that. Mr. Montello will look, make sure it's within the law. Either way, if it isn't, then you guys all have to look at it. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to give you, maybe, yes, and then all of a sudden you can't, and you don't want that. You want to say, hey, I want to know yes or no, okay? That's the bottom line, okay? Nobody wants, you want to try to get this resolved. You would like to keep it where it is. You want to know why you can't. You want to know why, I'm listening to all this, why you can't consolidate a lot, and maybe that's another way possible. I don't know that answer. Maybe that's something that can be done, and it changes the situation. Maybe it isn't. But what we don't want to do, similar to what you did without getting a permit, is go and get that piece of property, then you go to the zoning board or go out and say, it doesn't matter. You don't want to do that, okay? Even if they give it to you, you're going to have to pay for some legal thing. You don't want to go through all that if it's not going to give you the end result that you want, correct? So my point is, start there, see if you can get the answers, okay? If you don't get the answers from them, or maybe they're not the answers they like, you always have a right. You could talk to the zoning chairman, see what he thinks, okay, before you even take it to the board, and see where you're at. I really think the answers I want you to get, I want you to get factual answers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And when they tell me the conversation and Mr. Montello, I want you to get the right information and factual information. I don't feel that there's anybody here, maybe Mr. Montello can, but he has to look at the stuff too. You haven't been briefed on this, correct?
No, it may take some research,
So,
it's not a clear-cut answer.
so I think that's where you should start. But I will tell you this, no one's going to jail. Okay?
As you say, yes.
He can make, Mr. Montello can talk to Mr. Kalman tomorrow. They could give an extension to you, you guys can talk, okay? And go from there, okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't want to mislead you. And I will never do that.
We'll figure this out. I said we'll figure this out.
I'd like to think so.
Yes.
Am I done? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Holly, obviously the pup wants to go home.
Any other residents? Anybody else would like to, anybody on the live stream?
No.
Any non-residents? Okay. I got the mayor's report here. I'd like to give here. Okay. Mayor's court revenue for the month of May. The Walton Hills Police Department issued 102 citations in the month of May. The predominant violation was speed with 28 citations issued, followed by expired plates with 26 citations, and 12 citations issued for driving under suspension. We had 2 arrests for driving while under the influence of alcohol and drugs. We would like to see 0 there, but 2 is better than some of the other elevated months we've had. Okay. I also have my court report for May. The mayor's court report for May, total revenue was $17,784. Year-to-date was $110,809. Last year-to-date was $100,892.30, so up about $10,000. Okay. That's my reports. Any council comments before we move on to legislation? Okay, everybody good? All right. All these ordinances that are in front of us, we talked for the last month and a half or so, some of them a month. I'm just going to ask for whoever would like to introduce them under suspension.
I'll do the first one.
Okay. Who would like, Diane would like to introduce ordinance 2024-5, property assessments? Go ahead, Diane.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2024-5, an ordinance authorizing and directing the fiscal officer to certify delinquent property maintenance charges, trash collection assessments, and culvert repair assessment to the county auditor for the collection and declaring an emergency.
Vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
I'll make a second on that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Who seconded? Mr. Nielsen, thank you, Fred. Okay, vote on the suspension.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yeah.
Councilman Spitznagel?
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'd like to
ma'am.
ask for adoption for resolution number 2024-5.
is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Vote on the adoption.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yeah.
Councilman Spitznagel?
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Ordinance pass, 5-0. Who would like to introduce ordinance 2024-6?
I'll do it, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Spitznagel. For suspension, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce for suspension ordinance 2024-6, an ordinance making additional appropriations in advance for current expenditures of the Village of Walton Hills, Ohio during the year 2024 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the suspension, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2024-6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Vote on the adoption, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Ordinance passed, 5-0. Item C, Resolution 2024-23.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Nielsen.
I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2024-23, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the suspension, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
I'd like to ask for adoption of resolution number 2024-23.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Vote on the adoption, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance passed. Thank you, everybody. 5-0. Item D, Resolution 2024-24. Who would like to introduce that for suspension?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Nielsen.
I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2024-24, a resolution requiring the county auditor to advance taxes from the proceeds of tax levies for the year 2024 in 2025 pursuant to the section number 32134 of the revised code of the state of Ohio and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Vote on the suspension, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, suspension passed.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Nielsen.
I'd like to ask for adoption of resolution number 24-24.
Is there a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the adoption, please.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. 5-0. Old and new business, just a couple things. We do have Juneteenth tomorrow, and there is a program being put on by the Bedford school system, which we are part of. It starts, there is a run, yes, I have it in front of me, Ray, you're looking at it too. Let's see what we got. I know everybody got it in their mailbox. I think it's on our website. Please join us for a family-friendly celebration, including a 5K and a 1-mile walk, run, food, music, games, giveaway, and live entertainment. It's Wednesday, of course, Juneteenth, June 19th, Bearcat Stadium. The 5K and 1-mile walk run starts at 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., check-in at 7:30 a.m., and the Freedom Day celebration is at 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. I know I won't be walking or running, I probably need to, but I will be at the 4 o'clock. If any other council members want to join me, that's one of those things. Also, 4th of July, you got the invite to participate in the parade. We will have a vehicle again and participate in that. If anybody wants it, any council members, hopefully everybody could be there for that. Of course, the Lake Club will be having the 4th of July event there, which is a very nice family event for all residents, open to all residents. That will take place on the 4th of July. I didn't know if council would like to make a motion. This body normally recesses in July and August. If you want to make a motion to recess July and August for our regular meetings, I do see a good chance of maybe having a few special meetings due to the collective bargaining agreement and some payroll tax sharing with some of the new development.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would just like to make mention that the OWL will be raffling off baskets at the July 4th at the lake. The OWL is an all-volunteer organization, completely supported by themselves, and delivered to every household in the village. And along with the OWL doing that, we will also be making a presentation, the Citizens League will be making a presentation of the Citizen of the Year for 2023 and 24?
Either 22, 23, or 23, 24, I get the dates mixed
23, 24, because our last one was in 22, so.
You can just give it to me now.
Yeah, okay. Sure. And I will try to be at the Juneteenth, Mayor, but I do have an appointment, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make it now.
That's fine, that's fine. I just want to make sure everybody got the
Yeah,
information.
no, it
and,
just, those last minute doctor's appointments, you can't get in for months on time. And
No,
then-
that's, this body is always represented. Sometimes I can't make it, sometimes Brian, we all, as a body, we always try to,
Yes.
at least a few of us be there to represent our community. So,
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sure that will happen.
I'd like to make that motion to recess for July and August.
Second.
Sure you do.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Sure.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, anybody else have any old or new business?
Mayor Colgrove?
Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to
Mr.
share
Wheaton.
briefly, last week I had the opportunity to, while in Washington DC, to attend the Empowering Local Leadership Conference, the Greater Cleveland Elected Leadership Conference, presented by the Greater Cleveland Partnership, also in partnership with the Cuyahoga County Mayor and Managers Association. I was able to bring back brochures from the second day. What I will say just briefly tonight, because I will have more detail for the various committees that I serve on, that's when I can share more. But there was, from all of our area congresspersons, David Joyce, Chantel Brown, Emilia Sykes and Max Miller, and others, there was one very strong key message, and that was on the area of planning, especially if a community is going to be in the arena of seeking federal dollars, 2 years out. 2 years out is really when the federal budget is made. And they also mentioned that the bigger the project for the area, not necessarily your local community, well, we all have our priorities in our local communities, but the more bang the federal government can get out of the buck by spreading it for a larger area project will always take priority. But as I said, I will have a lot more detail in the various committees, and we have committee meetings. I'll share that at a later date.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. I appreciate you attending that and sharing that with us. Thank you. Any other things, any other old, new business? Can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make motion for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kanzoni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes, and happy Juneteenth, everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned at 8:30 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Nicole, was there anybody watching this?
I think we had all 11
Oh, wow.
at one point.
Okay,
I'm gonna turn the speaker
I
off.
thought 12 at one point.
Oh, did-